As we've been working our way through these great I am statements that Jesus made when he was on the earth, I have to say that this is probably my favorite one. Not necessarily because of the words, but because it was such a visual and impactful object lesson. You see, the story that surrounds these words is the story of Lazarus. Lazarus was a friend of Jesus, and Jesus often stayed with Lazarus. And Lazarus got sick, and they sent word to Jesus, who was far off, and said, "Come quickly, because Lazarus is sick, and we think he's going to die." And what did Jesus do? He waited, and he waited, and he waited. And then Lazarus died. When Jesus shows up, you can imagine how distraught, confused, and upset Lazarus' sisters were. Mary and Martha both at different times questioned him. "Lord, where were you? Why weren't you here? Don't you care?" And Jesus looked at them and says, you do understand who I am, don't you? And they had a rudimentary understanding. They had a ballpark understanding of who Jesus is. They understood that he was the Messiah and that he could do all things. And yet it never once crossed their minds that he could raise their brother from the dead. Right before these passages, there's what for many of us was a godsend verse for Bible memory time. You know which one I'm talking about. It just simply says, Jesus wept. And I always found that fascinating of why Jesus wept. Was it for Lazarus, who he knew was going to bring him from this place of paradise? Or was it because of the lack of understanding from Mary and Martha? Or what was it? Jesus is going to weep right after these words, rather, and he's going to say, Lazarus, come forth, and then Lazarus is going to show up. But before all that happens, Jesus is going to explain something to them. He says, I am the resurrection and the life. It is interesting that he didn't say life and the resurrection. You see, for us, we understand that true life doesn't begin until we're resurrected. We can't be resurrected until we die. And we can't come to Christ until we die. We need to give ourselves over to him and spiritually die to ourselves, die to our own motives and our own ambitions, and become alive in him. And when we're alive in him, then we too can experience the resurrection and the life. We too can experience the joy of what it means to live again and to live truly and fully for him. Jesus is going to say, I have come to give you life, but not just life, but life more abundant. And so the life that God gives, the life that Jesus provides, is a life of abundance. Abundance of joy, of peace, of happiness, a life that's full of truth and wisdom. You see, all those blessings that God gives us. And so I want you to take some time today and praise God and give him thanks for all the things that he has done for you.